everybody. Welcome to a very, very special episode of Esoteric Atlanta. This is an episode that was actually inspired by Miss Angie here. We're going to be doing a deep dive, a deep look into the Sophia Code with the originator of the Sophia Code in our little community, which isn't me. It's Cindy from Sacred Garden Yoga. Okay, ladies, how you guys doing today? You ladies, lovely ladies doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I am so good. I'm so excited about this episode. And I know you guys know before too. I'm gonna just go ahead and quickly show you guys, if you're new to this channel, your first time signing in, we have Cindy at Sacred Garden Yoga. I will be putting both Cindy and Angie's links down in the description box below, but this is Cindy from Sacred Garden Yoga. And then of course, Miss Angie Tillman, the fickle chickle herself. We've got her page, her YouTube channel right here. Now, this is crazy, Cindy and Angie. Now, we're the three Georgia girls. Cindy and I are in the Atlanta area. Angie is in Athens, which is really close to Atlanta. So we're all here from the state of Georgia. It's so funny because Angie and I were speaking on the phone the other night, Cindy, and she had all these things. We were talking about the Sophia Code. The Sophia Code, it's literally so many people in our community are now reading this book. I've recommended it. You guys, if you're new again, I have done the Sophia Code on my channel. You can go to my channel, to the playlist, if I can get this. Here we go. The playlist, Understanding the Magdalene. I have the whole Sophia Code on that playlist if you want to listen to it. We are also going through the Sophia Code again on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa on Wednesdays. We're doing that live, and we're in Hathor right now. So just so you guys, I'll also put those links down in the description box below. But I was telling Angie that Cindy is the person who introduced me to the Sophia Code, and I wanted to make that very clear with everybody that's in this community. We have to give credit where credit is due. The Sophia Code was recommended to me by Miss Cindy from Sacred Garden Yoga, who is one of my real life. I knew Cindy long before YouTube. And so, Cindy, let's start at the beginning. How did you discover the Sophia Code?
Well, I was actually reading another book, and I'm not even sure what book it was. But when I was reading it, they kept saying, Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. And I've heard of Sophia, like Sophia is but I just understood her as kind of like the female principle of the divine, kind of like, when we talk about the Shakti is the female principle of the divine. And so Sophia, whenever I would hear, I would always just think of that, But for some reason, when I was reading this book about Sophia, or it wasn't about Sophia, they just kept mentioning Sophia, it struck me differently and made me want to do a little bit more research. I'm like, well, let me just look into this more. And as I was doing the research, I came across the book, The Sophia Code, because that's one of the first things that pop up. And so the first thing I did is I pulled up the book. Usually before I purchase a book, I'll pull up the book. I have a subscription to Scribd, I think is the way you say it. So I pulled it up on that first. I'm like, well, let me see if I like it. And so I pulled it up and started reading the first few chapters. I was like, ooh, there is like really something big and deep here. And that's when I ordered the book. And I remember I ordered it during the summertime, maybe 3-4 years ago or something like that. And I was reading it through summer, like I was going on, I just remember like being on the beach or we would go visit my husband's family up on Lake Erie. And as I was reading the Sophia Code, you would get the transmissions and I felt like the need to do it more. So I would do it once and then I would go through and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go through this again. And just these big changes, big movement, more like internal movement, big internal change that I felt it was very powerful. The initiations that are in here, because, sometimes you get a book and you don't know what you're going to get. You're like, it's all right. Or they say it's powerful, but when you read it and you're like, okay, well, that was okay. But this was like, oh, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's what, and it was just divine timing, of course. I think that's how everything shows up to us. It was my time, perhaps I wasn't ready to receive it beforehand, even though I have heard about Sophia and all this, but I've heard of the book Sophia Code, but was never interested in delving into it. And I think it's one of those where it does meet you when you're ready to receive it. It's
Well, they
kind of
even
one of
say
those texts,
that.
like when you read the Bhagavad Gita or when you read through the Yoga Sutras, they kind of meet you with where you are and how ready you are to receive it. And I think it's the same with this book as well.
And she says that I think she says that multiple times, like the person who wrote the book, and then the channeling where it's like, if you're reading this, this is not going to be for everyone. Like not everybody is going. This is for you specifically, the person reading this. And yeah, it's So I've obviously known you, Cindy, for a very long time, and I trust everything. You also recommended Megan Watterson's commentary on Magdalene's gospel, which we did. And so Cindy will just say books, and I'll just remember them. I'll go home and order them because I know Cindy personally, and I know how invested she is in her own spiritual walk and her own teaching and understanding this. And so when I cracked this sucker open, and I didn't even do any background on it, I just started reading it on my channel. And man, oh man, I was telling you guys off camera, and I was saying to Shanti, like, because we're doing it live on her channel, I'm like, when I got through some of these key codes, I had to stop filming multiple times to like fix my makeup or dry my. I could not hold the tears back. It's such powerful stories, and they're so rooted in that human element. Even though these women, these key codes, they were humans, but they're also coming at you from the place of an ascended master. But you feel that just that real deep, it's hard to, it's that deep like understanding
Mm-hmm.
of what they're saying. And so yeah, you guys, like, it was Cindy that brought this book to my attention, which then I read on my channel, which now is spreading like wildfire all over our community. Everybody's talking about it, everybody's mentioning it. So we have to give credit that Cindy was the one that actually lit that fire. And now, Cindy, I was trying to explain, I don't know if it was to Angie or to someone, you do like at a sacred garden, you do like workshops around these ascended masters, correct? That are spoken about in this book.
Yeah, it's the Ascension. I do a course called Ascension. I have a part one and a part two. And through the part one, we go a lot through these key codes and through these specific goddesses here. Because, just like you, I've been studying these goddesses and these deities for a really long time. And what I found in this book is that it felt so much more impactful. And I mean, whether you believe that these goddesses are myths or whether you believe that they did actually exist as an ascended master, because I know some people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. I was like, well, were they really real or are these just mythical beings? And the way I see it is, whatever you believe, it really doesn't matter. Like you can go into this and think of them as more mythical beings, but there is an impactful story behind them. And there's something about their energy and their essence that's very real. Just like, when we talk about any other deities, even within the Hindu pantheon or the Greek pantheon, I got Aphrodite right here, right behind me. I don't know if you see her, but they just hold a certain energy. They represent aspects of us. And I think if you could just look at it within that point of view, whether you believe that they're truly ascended masters and whether they actually lived or if they're mythical beings, but there was something about the way that they were portrayed within these stories that really brought them to life on a deeper level besides just what you might normally
It's
pick
visceral.
up in a regular bookstore.
You feel, and that's important because I think too, again, it doesn't really matter if they were alive or not, because they're tapping into an energy that exists within you already. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
pause on that because I want to talk about that. I want to expand upon that. But I also, but first, I know Angie. So Angie, you've got Green Tara behind you, which is one of the lovely ladies of the Sophia Code. And I know you're not finished with it yet, which is totally fine. We were just saying, like, the channeler even talks about this. Like, this book is not meant to be picked up and like devoured in one night. Like, this is the book that you will take your time going through. And some of these key codes, when you finish an activation, they even suggest take a week, let it integrate, let it resonate. And yeah, doing it a second time on Aquarius Rising Africa has been even more impactful for me. And I will say too, guys, just a side note, we're doing the Emerald Tablets on my channel. Guess who's the person that showed me the translation of the Emerald Tablets to get? Cindy. So half of my library here is all thanks to Cindy. So you can thank Cindy for that as well. But before we get into talking about pulling out activations that are already within you, Angie, is there anything you want to add or ask before we get into that?
Well, it's a little strange probably to how, how my brain works or how things are just shown to me, but the word Tara comes up with me all the time, whether it be in the movie Gone with the Wind, and the plantation is called Tara. My son is creating a game, an online game, and he was saying it's about Tara. Like he didn't even realize. I'm like, what? He goes, Mom, it's another name for Earth. And I'm like, green Tara, like to me, that's the Earth. Like, and I am very, very connected to the earth. Like I can hold birds in my backyard. I mean, just, I've always been this way. I've always been like the barefoot feeling like, even though I'm afraid of snakes and spiders, I will sit right down in the ground and just say, they're not going to hurt me right now because I am part of, I'm from this. Like I feel so at one with it. So I don't really know where to go with it, but recently, can I say this yet, Brice? Like recently, recently I was told by someone that she sent me while I was sleeping 1,000,000 Sophia codes. And it just didn't sit well with me at all. I was like, wait a minute. No. Because in reading this book, I feel like I'm being shown that I have all of this already. That to me, it's what when I think of like holy, like the Holy Spirit, I feel like I was born with it. We all were. And so for someone to say that to me really upset me and made me think that I didn't know what I already knew, and that I didn't already have within me what I already have. And so that's why I really wanted to understand this more. And when I told Brice about that, she was like, we gotta do this with Cindy, because she's really studied this a whole lot. And yeah, I mean, I just felt like that was not coming from the right place. And it was I don't know, tricking me into, or tricking others that might be told the same thing from these people that are more ascended. That or they think they are, or that I'm not the only one that is being told these type things, and possibly believing. I did not believe it, but there's a whole lot more people out there that are being told these things, and they're I guess you could say drinking the Kool-Aid, and where I see, like, this makes me feel good about myself. This makes me feel, when I read this book, like when Brice said it's kind of like her Bible, same for me. Like, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel, I completely resonate with every word of it. And I keep having to go back and read it over and over and over to go, yes, you really did get that the first time, Angie. And it's okay. It's okay to believe that within yourself, to know that you embody all of this already. And it's just like a sort of like a awakening of it that's already there. Does that make sense? So it's already there, and it's helping me to realize it and awaken to what is already within my spirit.
Yeah, and I think we could start with that by just like, what exactly is the Sophia Code? Not the book itself, but the code of Sophia. And the way that I take it is, when they're talking, that it's something that's in your spiritual DNA already, and also in your physical DNA, like the Shiva, the Shakti, the intertwining of both. And we know that some of these suckers can modify DNA, but you really can't, God doesn't make junk. And we know that we have 10 strands of DNA that are not active, that we're working through what they call the ascension to activate those. And when I first read the Sophia Code, I thought about what actually is the Sophia Code. It's a spiritual DNA strand that already exists within you. So you were born with it. And they even say in the Sophia Code over and over again, which contradicts the church, that you were born with the Holy Spirit. You have this thing called the Holy Shekinah, or the Holy, that's part of why you're human. And when you read the book and you go through the teachings, all it's doing with you, they're not doing it for you, but they're walking you and coaxing you through this path of activating it yourself. That's, what the word savior means, someone who has saved himself, so that you can save yourself. And it's beautiful the way you said that. I was thinking about some of the key codes, Angie, and I felt the same way. It's like, even though when you're going through these key codes, you're actually doing a lot of shadow work. There's a lot of like darkness that's coming up, but in the midst of healing that, you still know you're perfect. Your soul is perfect, So they're talking you through, like the Isis, she's having you say that you forgive yourself for believing in a God outside of yourself that can hurt you, forgive yourself for believing that there's one religion that's better than another, And so even in spite of the fact that you may have fallen for some of these mental, whatever you want to call them, blockages, your soul has always still been perfect. And the Sophia Code was something, it is your privilege as a fractal of God to have this. And the Sophia, so for the people, the Sophia is the great mother, right? So she talked about in the Creatrix, the great mother. And for those who aren't aware, the missing books of the Bible speak about Sophia all the time. In the missing books of the Bible, Yeshua, who people call Jesus, Yeshua, he doesn't say my Father in heaven. In the missing books of the Bible, he says my mother, father, or my father, mother. He never addresses it as just father. So this idea of Sophia being the female version of God was very much a part of the original teachings of Yeshua and Magdalene. Like that was a part of the Gnostic, the original Christian faith. And the female aspect of all of us, and it's interesting, I'm going to quote Thea on Aquarius Rising Africa. Thea brought this up because I remember listening to a podcast, a yoga podcast, many, many, many years ago. And one of the teachers, I think it was John Scott, I can't remember, but one of the big Ashtanga teachers was talking about human connection and consciousness. And how when babies are born, typically a child's first word in many cases is dada. Now a lot of early childhood development, people will tell you it's because the da sound is the first sound a baby learns how to make with their tongue. But this yoga teacher had a different perspective on it. And mothers get upset because they want the baby to say mama because you birthed them, all that kind of stuff. But he's saying what the mother doesn't understand is that the baby does not see himself as separate from the mother at that point, but recognizes father as something separate. But mother and baby are one and the same. And I brought this up, and Thea made a very interesting comment, because we've kind of we forgot about Sophia. For many, many generations, we'd forgotten about the female aspect of God. And instead, we've been looking at the male aspect of God. And she said, is it because we already felt that? We already intuitively felt that, like a baby knows mama and baby are one and the same. I know a mother, you ladies are mothers, can spot their baby's cry out of any baby crying, because we already knew we were one with mother. So we address father. I thought that was just a very interesting perspective. And so I guess if we want to start there, just talking about, so Cindy, since you've been doing this, what is your perspective on the actual Sophia Code? Not the book, but the coding of Sophia. Is that pretty much how, or do we share a perspective on that, or do you see it a little bit differently?
Yeah, no, I would say that for sure. And I remember, I have it written somewhere, like in the Gnostic Gospels, they talk a lot about Sophia, and it's interesting to read just her story too, because they have her origin story, just like everyone else has their origin story. And I don't remember it exactly because I don't have it in front of me, but I know that her story was a lot about descension.
Yep.
It was like she was born, and then she went down and down and down through the very many different layers of being, like down into, and some people say through her descension was when a lot of the what we would consider human traits were developed, even some human traits that some might consider bad or evil, but it's not evil, but maybe not so great, like more of the like the other side of the spectrum, that her dissension is what created the spectrum of some of the lower density or lower frequency things, but it's also, we've had this conversation so many times, but we need that for contrast, right? We need the duality, or we need the full spectrum of living, that it's not just like one love and light, but it's the full spectrum is what it is to be human. And so Sophia's descent is partly what caused that, the other parts of humanity to be born. And then she went back up through her ascension again. And that's what I found really interesting just about her story when you read about it, like, you know, her origin story through some of the Gnostic texts. And because when we do think about and how well that also correlates with other aspects of what we know of the divine female principle, like when we think of Shakti or we think of Prakriti, we think of the female aspect of the material, or even the moon. You know, you got the sun and the moon. The moon is the female aspect, and the moon represents like the material. You know, what it does mean to be human and to live in this world and to live in this life, and how to go through our descension first so that then we can ascend. And I found that aspect of the story of Sophia very interesting, and how that matched up with so many other aspects of that divine principle.
And that's also, you know, I've talked about my channel a lot, you know, for female energy, that's aponic, which is downward flowing energy. You see this, that's why women give birth. There's no more there. I mean, I've never given birth, but I can imagine these two ladies have. There is no greater downward flowing pressure than pushing a human through your hoo-ha. You know, like that's the portal that the soul comes in through the portal. Whereas men are more pranic, they're upward energy. That's why women have bigger hips, men have bigger chest. But within each person, so if there's a man watching right now, and I've had many men say to me, should I read the Sophia Code because I'm a man? I'm like, absolutely. Because you have that. I mean, even the two nostrils, we have the left nostrils feminine, the right nostril. So even though we're all three women, we're predominantly aponic with our biological makeup. We carry the divine feminine principle within us. We also carry the masculine too. It's that we have pranic energy that runs up and aponic energy that runs down. So even for men watching, we're talking about a principle that lives within all humans, because men have to take that descent as well before they can ascend, which was a big lesson from Magdalene too, you know, like being able to go into your humanness. Like you came down here, you are a spiritual being, but we are having a human experience. And that when you, I mean, the Emerald Tablets speak about this too. When you face the darkness, when you go through, and that feminine energy is also that intuitive side. So that's the introspection as well, of being able to go within yourself and to see your own darkness, your own, in order, and then to bring it to the light to ascend again. And we see that with a lot of the key codes, a lot of the Isis, the Hathor, the Green Tara, Kuan Yin, Magdalene, White Buffalo Woman. Like we see their humanness as well, and the times that, and so it shows you, I think we have this idea, because we know the original definition of sin is to miss the mark. Sin doesn't mean that you're just screwing up all the time. And I don't think, from my opinion, like I look at like the sins the church labels sins, and I'm like, but if you do these things, yeah, they could hurt other people, but if you learn from them, then it wasn't a mistake. And Sophia also means wisdom. It's the energy of wisdom too. That's in the Apocryphon books. Sophia is the wisdom. So when you descend into yourself and you go through your own darkness, your own dark night of the soul, you gain wisdom from that. There is that element of returning with wisdom that you cannot, you can't. I mean, I love, Cindy, I quote you all the time where you say, you know, without suffering, there would be no mystic. Because without suffering, we don't question things. If we don't question things, we don't learn, we don't explore. And so, yeah, that she is the feminine. And there is, and I always suggest, read the missing books of the Bible, read all these things, because it's so fascinating. So the Sophia Code, as human beings, spiritual beings in a human body, we have our physical DNA from our parents, but we also have spiritual DNA that lingers also within our, and Hathor goes, listen, I love me some Hathor, but her key code is like so sciencey. Like, I'm like, reading her, because it's all about electrons, neutrons, protons, how to get into the cell of your system, like where this, I mean, it kind of gives me chill bumps as I'm talking about it, but I'm like, girl, you're a nerd. Like, she's so sciencey about her whole, like, but I know Cindy's a Reiki master, like the electron is the energy cycle of it's the energy within the body, so that makes sense. That's kind of I almost see that as like the spiritual highway between that kind of dances between the Prakriti and the Purusha, or the Shiva and the Shakti, that kind of intertwines the matter with spirit, where these little Sophia codes exist. Does that make sense? I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, and then they often refer to us as the chalice. Yeah. It's funny because, I would get that word, before even reading the Sophia Code, that we are the chalice, and, we're trying to restore the chalice, and they refer to our body as that we are the Holy Grail. That's what she says, like, we are the Holy Grail. And that what we're trying to do is just to restore the chalice back to that original essence of understanding and knowing, and through even and that resonates with me so much. I mean, the chalice is one of it's a personal symbol of mine, because it's shown up a lot over and over again. And I have a chalice with the roses on it, and through the priestess program that I do, I mean, that's what we call it. It's like the order of the chalice, because of the understanding that our body is actually supreme. And that also goes behind like the tantric principles are also female principles, that we go through the body to know ourselves, and that our body is not like sinful, or our body is not gross, or our body is not something that that we need to transcend necessarily, but our body is something that we go through to know enlightenment. So our body is the Holy Grail. It is the chalice. And I can't remember, I think it's under the Mother Mary Magdalene part here. And it actually, I think she mentions this more than one time through the Sophia Code. That's what our human, part of our human experience is, it's about trying to understand ourselves as the Grail itself.
We're also the Ark of the Covenant. That's in that you are the Ark of the Covenant as well.
Yeah.
All these things that people have spent eons trying to find. Isn't that the sense of humor of God, though? It's like The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, where he thinks his personal treasure is in Egypt. He's from Spain, this little shepherd boy, until he crosses the Mediterranean, goes through trials and tribulations, gets to Egypt, and realizes everything he wanted is back at home. It's within. And my favorite part of that book is when he's all mad at God because he went through all this shit just to get all the way to Egypt to find out like everything's back at home. And he was like, but God, you sent me on this journey knowing that. And he goes, yeah, I did. And he was like, and he was complaining, and God goes, but weren't the pyramids beautiful? Like, didn't you enjoy, like, in this journey of realizing that it's all within you, didn't you enjoy it too? Weren't the pyramids beautiful though? Like, so yeah, it's now
that kind of makes me also think that a lot of people, well, I get this a lot from my upbringing, is that they don't want you to enjoy the church.
Everything's
want
sinful.
You to enjoy, trying to find, like, when you say like missing the mark, that's the sin, is missing the mark, missing, finding out who you are, like who you really are, like that you have it all within. And so, but we are supposed to enjoy it. That's why we came back here. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons, at least. I mean, it would be really, that would be awful too, to come back here and not enjoy.
I've laughed. We've my boyfriend and I have spoken about, like, when Earth ascends, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, can we leave like a Google Yahoo review for planet Earth? Like, hard terrain, but the French fries are really good. Like, can we leave like a Yahoo review for this place? Venus is better, but the French fries on Earth are really good. We're supposed to, and that's something that I say this a lot. Like Sri Swami Satchidananda's commentary on the Yoga Sutras, it's something that really got me from his commentary, where he was like, the minute you viscerally understand who you are spiritually, that's when you can actually really enjoy life. the good, the bad, and the ugly. You see the value in everything, and nothing is permanent. And that's that flow, the prakriti, the rule of prakriti or nature. It's always changing because there's a birth, a life, and a death. So I would say, like, when people, if somebody's, in my opinion, if someone says to you, I'm sending you 1,000,000 Sophia codes, they don't actually understand what the Sophia code is. Because it's something that you already have within you. I don't think anybody can give you a Sophia code. That's like the same thing as, I feel like, the church, when they're like, have you accepted the Holy Spirit into your heart? Holy Spirit was already there. It was already there. You were born in with it. You were born with this spirit, with the Shekinah. So, and that's the thing too, I think we bypass a lot. You know, Cindy and I both are yoga teachers. Cindy does a lot of healing. You know, only thing, and we were talking about this kind of yesterday at the Shala, Cindy, at your Shala, after I taught my class. Like, only thing a teacher or a healer can do is help you and support you to energetically do the work yourself. Because literally no one can do this for you. Like, and that's your privilege. You're privileged enough to be able to save yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like our friend Eric. When, you know, I was sick, I'd had a concussion, and I was putting it out there on YouTube. Like, I couldn't stand to even touch my face. It started back here, but then now the pain was on the front of my face, and he sent me healing, but he just said, but you have to believe it. And the next morning I woke up and I could feel like the pain had gone from like all here to just about out the crown of my head, you know, like about gone. And I told him this, and he goes, I didn't do anything. You did it. You did it, Angie. You did it. And, you know, that's him also being humble, but also he's right. He's right. I did it. You know, I believed, and I healed myself, along with, you know, just knowing that he was sending me energy healing, and I was accepting it and believing in it. And I totally believed it. I put it out on YouTube before I even got the healing. I just said, and I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be healed, you know, and the next day I was, you know, completely. I mean, it was like what people would call a miracle, but yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, and that's, I know, and my friend Emmy, who's also Reiki master, she's all the time like, if I send someone Reiki and they don't believe it, it's not going to do anything. You have to be, and that's the same story with Yasha, when the woman who reaches out and touches his cloak, and she magically gets better, and he says, who touched my cloak? And people are, oh, you can't touch him. He's like, no, who was that? And she says, it's me. And I get emotional because she healed, and he goes, you only healed because you believed. Makes me emotional.
Yeah.
It's like, Yasha was like, I didn't heal you.
Yeah.
You healed yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I cried all by myself the next day when I realized what had happened. I was like, this is real. This is really real. This is very recent too, Cindy. I don't know if you've heard the story, but it was very, very recent. And it's like, wow, like I've known this, but I have gone through, like, you know, where I'll stand in the shower and do all this breathing. I try to heal myself of things because I was very, very sick for a couple of years. And, but just, yeah. I mean, it is completely real. And just a couple of days ago, same thing. Like, I just all of a sudden went, and I said it out loud. I went, whoop. All of that pain is completely gone. Just like poof.
So that's kind of an example of what I think the Sophia Code is. It's something within you. And like, as Cindy was saying, and they do say this in the book, like, you're reading this because you're at a place where you're able to accept it and be open to it. And so things start to shift within you. And it's not because some bippity boppity boo magic was given to you. It's because something within you was awakened, was activated. Something you already know. Because if somebody can give something to you, then that means they can also take it away.
Right.
Nothing, this can't be taken away from you, because it's you were born. It's like, I akin it to, like, it's like we were all born in our races, right? I'm a white lady. I was born a white lady. Nothing I can do to change that. That's my DNA, this life, right? It's the same with the Sophia Code. No one's going to be able to come and change that. That's just you. And I want people to understand, like, this book was not written for one select group of people. If you find the book and read it, great, it's for you. But nowhere in this book does she say only these people can read this book. It is written literally for anybody who wants the information. There's no holds bar. And I think when we run across these like healers who think they have some sort of power over you, that is coming from indoctrination from things like the church, where there's the special people. And then somebody asked me this on Enough is Enough about prophets. And I said, you know what? Everyone's a prophet. Mm-hmm. Why are you listening to somebody else when you have your own gut intuition? You have your own. If somebody says something and it doesn't seem right to you, go with your gut. You know, we have this idea that certain people are more eligible to do things than others. And yes, certain people will awaken faster than others, but that does not mean that the people who aren't awakened don't already have the same abilities and the same spiritual DNA. Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah. So I would say if somebody says they're sending you Sophia codes, no, they're not, because you already have them. Please, guys, read this book for yourself. I'll put a link to it in the description box. Because this, I mean, because even with the Ascended Masters, they're not there going, I'm doing this for you. No, they're basically, I see them like, hold my hands. I'm going to help you do this for yourself.
Well, isn't what that we're all supposed to do is become ascended masters?
Well, they say that in the Sophia Code that you're on the path of becoming your own ascended master, and some of us have been ascended masters before.
Yeah.
Well, you know, once I think I've shared with you this before too, Brice. You know, when I was in the shower one day, I received like this. Just how you receive downloads or messages or information. Like the 5 highest teachings of the sacred feminine, right? And it was after reading the Sophia Code and all that. And one of them was, is that they don't require, like the ascended masters or the deities or anything, they don't require your worship. They don't even want your worship. What they would prefer is for you to simply be the embodiment. It's like, be the embodiment of be me, be the example. It's like, you don't necessarily have to go around talking about me all the time or talking about us all the time. I mean, you can, but that's not the point. The point is you go out and you actually be it. Like, if you are being Hathor, being Isis, or being Kuan Yin and True, like, how would you actually show up and how would you do things differently in your life? It's like they want you to be the example, not like they don't require your worship or anything like that. Like, embody it and be it. And that is a female principle as well, is embodiment. Like, embodiment is all about then taking everything that you've learned. And so how are your relationships? How are you treating your body? What are you putting into your body? Like, how is your relationship with abundance versus scarcity? Like, how is it actually, don't just sit there and talk about me, but like live the Sophia Code as if you are already all of these beings and deities wrapped into one.
Yeah. And that's, I know, I've spoken so much about Kuan Yin, but isn't that with her compassion, like to embody? I know we've spoken about Kuan Yin off camera, Cindy, because she is such a very soft character, but she had to go through the incredible harshness to find that softness. And to be able to, in times, because we know we're on the internet, we get trolled a lot, but to be able to maintain that softness, that compassion of the same, not being Kuan Yin, but that same element of compassion that Kuan Yin carries as well. That's part of that coding that's within you. The thing I love about Magdalene is how sassy she is. Like, she's, we see her. That was one of the most shocking things she was a shapeshifter, Magdalene. She was able to shift her shape into a lion? I think it was a lion, because lions defeat the demons. And of course that can be metaphoric as well for your own defeating of demonic entities and all that kind of stuff, but, and you see
I loved how she channeled Kali too.
Yeah. Yeah, and
That
people,
totally makes sense. How she was like the mistress of Kali,
yes, and like
yeah,
Kali, for
totally. I
those
can
who
see
don't
that.
know, Kali's like she's like the badass of, I mean, she's the Ganesh is also the bringer and remover of obstacles, but they're different in a lot of ways. Ganesh is like ho ho ho, he's kind of like Santa Claus, but Kali will come in and like if you invite Kali into your energy field, just wait. Your life's gonna get turned upside down and things, and it's all for the better. You know, she's the one that's cutting off all the heads, and you know, it's very, and that's Magdalene, right? That's who Magdalene is and was, is she's very loving and kind, but she's fierce too.
Mhm.
She has that fierceness. So if you can have the compassion of Kuan Yin, the same, not her compassion, but yours that is the same as hers, but also the fierceness of Magdalene. And a good example of that too, Cindy, are the two key codes you start with. You start with Isis and you move to Hathor. Hathor was Isis's teacher. But Isis learned from Hathor, but she was still Isis and embodied, so they became two different ascended masters. She wasn't worshiping Hathor. She learned from Hathor and became the best Isis she could be.
Mhm.
You know, it's we're not here to be Yeshua. We're not here to be Magdalene. We're here to be Angie, Cindy, and Brice, but at the best, highest ascended place that we can be. They talk a lot too about mystery schools, don't they, in the Sophia Code and
Mhm.
all the mystery schools. And of course, in Hathor's activation, she speaks about all your past lives that we call past lives are actually happening right now simultaneously with this life. But they also say, you know, in your past, and Shanti has said this as well, the life we're living now is the accumulation of all the knowledge we've gained in these past existences. And so all these mystery schools, which no doubt, I mean, listen, reading about the Elysian mystery schools and how they were doing ayahuasca, I was like, I was totally there. Like, what did you say, Angie, before we started filming? Don't threaten me with a good time.
Uh-huh. I know.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm sure I was there.
And I've never even smoked a cigarette in my life, but I
Oh,
would
girl.
totally be doing some mushrooms or something, I think.
I can get you some of those, no problem. So, but you know, but you think about that, like that there are things that are beyond your mental understanding, but that you viscerally understand because your soul has experienced it, and now you're meeting at this culmination of all these experiences to embody this Sophia code within this one existence, if that makes sense. So you know, it's so powerful. I know. So Kuan Yin was my favorite. Cindy, what's your favorite in the Sophia Code? Which one?
Oh yeah, it's really when I try to think of a favorite, and then I think of another one, and then that becomes a favorite. The one that surprised, like I knew like Isis and Hathor and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. I knew that they were going to be favorites because I've been, you know, I felt like they've been with me for a long time. Kuan Yin, like Green Tara, I really connected with her, of course, because of all the earth work, and Kuan Yin surprised me too. And then who else? The one that was most surprising, was not surprising but newer to me, was a white buffalo woman, and I really got a lot from her. And I don't know if you can see behind me right here. I don't know if I can't grab it, but there's a yellow. See that yellow fringy
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
That's my peace pipe, and I actually got to that peace pipe after learning about White Buffalo Woman and what the peace pipe represents, you know, because you got you know, in White Buffalo, she says, well, you are the pipe, you know, you are the chinumpa is what she, you know, what she calls the peace pipe. You are the chinumpa. And so you are the prayer, but you are also the answer to your prayer. And and how the stick or whatever you call it of the pipe is the male, and then the bowl is the female. And I got I wish I could, I can't, I got all this stuff around me. I'd knock everything over to get the peace pipe, but the pipe, it has well, hold on a second, because I can't sit here and talk about it without actually getting it out. Hold on a minute, let me
Well,
pull
I
it
was gonna
out
say
here.
that's a lot. Why she's good. That's a lot like the story of the Ankh too, where the Ankh is both
Uh-huh.
the female and the male. Yeah, I've got the Ankh right here. It's the female and the male. It's also the chalice too.
And so the reason I had gotten this one, this is like a uniquely made, I got it at alltribes.com. So it's not like, a pipe that you could get at Amazon or anything. It's like a one of a kind. And this bowl is the reason I got it. And I like this bowl is because it's made out of alabaster. It's a bear. And alabaster is what Mary Magdalene always carried around, right? But the bowl traditionally is made out of like red, this kind of red dirt or red, I don't think it's red clay, but it's something like that is what the bowl of if you read through White Buffalo Woman, and it also symbolizes earth, like Mother Earth. This is like the female principle, and it comes together with, the pipe like this. And then this represents who you are. Like we were just talking about, you are the feminine, and you are the masculine, and you are the smoke, and you are the prayer that you put into the peace pipe, and you are the answer to your prayer. And I just thought that was very, I don't know, it just really touched me deeply because she was a newer deity for me.
Yeah.
And I liked her a lot. So anyways, I got this peace pipe just because of White Buffalo Woman.
And
I'm so glad you brought that out. I'm so glad you went and got that off your shelf.
Well,
I'll bring it out too. I bring this out in whenever we do like certain ceremonies. We do like the 8 high seasons at the yoga studio, and when we do like the ascension course and all that, and we talk about White Buffalo Woman, we actually I got a special blend of stuff because I'm not a big smoker at all either. And and then the tradition behind the peace pipe too is that when the peace pipe is lit, you only have sacred conversation. Once you light the peace pipe, because that's what they did in their traditions, is the peace pipe is only sacred, peaceful conversations were allowed. You were not allowed to talk about war. You weren't allowed to talk about anything like that when the peace pipe would come out.
Oh, I like that.
I like that a lot. I didn't know anything when I read, Kuan Yin was my favorite because she came out of nowhere. Like it came out of nowhere when I read how powerful her key code was. But I knew nothing about White Buffalo Woman either. Like I didn't know anything about. So that was, I can't wait to do her again because the first time I read it, whenever I was more learning about her. Yeah. And it's interesting because my boyfriend does a lot of tobacco therapy, which is the piece, but the tobacco blend, which is very different from cigarettes. It's not cigarettes.
Oh yeah, it's totally different.
Totally different, but he's very connected to Native American rituals and traditions himself. And Angie, you got a Native American friend now, so
yes, I do. I do. I'm excited. I'm excited about her, and just getting to know her better, and hopefully doing some things with her soon at the North Georgia. Yeah, Sarah. I was crazy that you just mentioned that because I was sitting here thinking about her while you were talking about that peace pipe.
Yeah. Ask her.
I gotta send Sarah, my new friend, this whole thing, and she's wanting to write a book called, she wants to call it War Woman. There's a place up in North Georgia, the War Women, that the Cherokee would have. I don't know the whole story, but they would have women that would go with them and to these camps when they were in battles, I guess with Creek Indians or whatever we're told, but Sarah knows a lot about it, and she wants to write a book about the women, her ancestors, the women ancestors, and the war women. And that's
what was her from. Who are her ancestors? Like
Cherokee.
What tribe?
Cherokee. And she's from the War Woman. Do you know anything about War Woman, North Georgia?
Well, I know that there's a road. There's War Woman Road that we go hiking off of. I always get car sick on. So does Robbie. We go hiking off of War Woman Road a lot up in North Georgia.
That's where she's from, and that's that festival I was telling you about over the weekend is off War Woman Road, and it's just like all these synchronicities keep happening. I just met this woman, Cindy. I just met her last week, like a week and a half ago or so. And then right after I get invited to a festival and they're like, it's off War Woman Road. Like, of course it is. I didn't get to go over the weekend. I'd planned on it, but we didn't go. But anyway, yeah.
The universe will talk to you like that, though. The universe will talk, will kind of nudge you in directions. Now, Angie, I know you're not finished with the Sophia Code, but is it safe to say Green Tara is your favorite so far?
Yeah, my favorite so far. I mean, I even like where I live right now, it's inherited property that I really feel like I'm the only one that cares about it. It's the land here, like, no, we can't tear down that tree. You can't, like, no, you can't spray a pesticide and you can't, no, we can lay sod if you want to, but it's not going to look like sod for too long because I'm letting all the weeds grow because I can eat them. And like and that really, if you walk out in my yard, I mean, you would never know sod was ever here, but we just had to lay it to get our certificate of occupancy. You got to have some grass down or whatever. But no, I mean, I won't allow any kind of chemicals here, and this land has been untouched for, gosh, hundreds of years, I would think. Well, for sure since like the 60s, and there were cows here forever. So it was just cows and pasture. And so, yeah, I feel really good about it. And all the vegetables I grow here, I know they're safe.
I meant to pull up your website because you guys, Miss Angie has a website called Fickle Chickle where she pickles. And so it's interesting you talk about being connected to Green Tara and the land because Lord, I can't pickle. Like, I don't know. I mean, this is I mean, I know I could learn, but I don't think that, sorry, I'm pulling your website up right now, Angie, as we
All
talk.
right. It's pickles.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to show it on the screen here. So it's very interesting that, yeah, of course you are naturally drawn. My computer's slow, so there should be an image here, you guys. So but if you go, I will put this website down in the description box below, along with Cindy's websites to you guys, because I know Angie, you'll ship to other states, correct?
Yeah, I ship all over the US and like every day.
I'm gonna have to get some stuff from you.
Well,
it sounds delicious.
I'll just bring
we
you
love
some
pickles at our house.
I'll bring you some over there.
I'm sorry, my computer's being slow, you guys. We have a construction going on in that store, and I swear it messes with our internet. So, but I will put Angie's website down because that's like, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about you talking about loving the land and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, of course, this is what you do. You pickle, you grow these vegetables and you pickle them, and so of course, that makes total sense that Green Tara would be an element of. It's not, and I hope that I make sense saying this, is not necessarily that it's Green Tara. It's that it's Angie's, her Sophia Code, her activation of the earth resonates with Green Tara because she's also obviously got some of that activated as well. Now, Cindy, are you doing a course soon? When is your next sacred? I was looking at sacred.
One of those courses.
Yeah.
Probably late. I don't have anything on the schedule. I mean, most everything that I have right now, those are just like workshops, and we do the high seasons. We'll do this. That's the ritual one. We'll do those. We do those for every, the 8 high seasons, and we have the one that's coming up for the summer solstice, but it's not on there yet. But as far as like the courses go with intuitive development and the ascension and all that, I'm kind of reworking it. And I'll probably start it up like late summer, fall, probably, because I'm trying to, usually when we start with the initiation, we start with the 4 elements and then trying to bring in some other aspects for it to feel more like the completion of the mystery school, like, because, we have a mystery school aspect to the yoga studio, and to go through it, like from initiation with the elements and then through like another thing I want to incorporate, for instance, like the Moon Key rights. Brice, I know you received like your first 3, right?
I was going to say we need to do more of those, and I actually wanted to bring you on to do a whole special on the Moon Key. I laugh so. I know Cindy and I probably have spent past lives before because there's only one person in this world who has ever spit on me, and I was totally fine with that. Because part of the cleansing was spitting with the Florida water, and I was like, give it to me, baby, just give it to me. So I actually wanted to bring you on to talk about the Moon Key rights and what that is, and all these beautiful, because you guys, even though Cindy's from Georgia, she's Peruvian, and so there's all these different elements to these, and I believe cultures are meant to be shared. I think that all of our collective ancestors, whether they're Latin American, South American, Native American, white, European, African, I believe all of our collective ancestors wanted to share these lineages with each other, because that's what I personally believe the 12 tribes of Israel really are. And that's these galactic lineages that have ended up on this earth. They come across as different races or cultures, but all they really are a different heritage. I know the Native Americans had a story that they would tell their young, that every person of every lineage had something to offer. And the trick was learning how to work together, right? There's things that Latin people can do that white people can't. There's things that white people can do that Latin people can, and Black people, if we work together and share each other's cultures, that's how we learn and we inactivate our own inner knowing. Because deep in our DNA, even though I'm predominantly white, I have other lineages as well in my DNA that aren't as dominant, but that doesn't mean they're not there. That doesn't mean.
It reminds me of like the Hopi prophecy. The Hopi, it reminds me of some of that I've read about a little bit. So yeah, that's cool.
I mean, according to 23andMe, whether that's true or not, I've got a lot of Coptic Egyptian. And I laughed when I saw that, because I'm blonde hair, blue eyed. I got a lot of Greek in me, which I was like, well, that explains why I get tan easily. But, so there are these elements that we have in us. And if we can see beyond the limitations of this earth and understand there is, we know the Druid. I know, Cindy, even though you're approving, you have some Irish in you too. Like didn't you say you have some Irish in you as well?
Yeah, I have like 2 or 3% or some Irish. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? Yeah, I obviously I wasn't surprised by the Southern Europe, the Portuguese and Spain. Yeah, because I had a good amount of that in there, but I had like a higher percent of Irish than I thought, which was interesting.
I need to do one of these things. I've never done any of that. I don't know why I was scared.
It's interesting. It's I will say, so the Irish, that's the Celtic and Druid culture, that's Magdalene's culture. And that comes from the planet Kentuckia. Not Kentucky, guys, not saying the state Kentucky, I'm saying the planet Kentuckia. Kentuckia, the Cassiopeians talk about the Kentuckians. They were oriented good. They were good, positively oriented. That's the red hair, the blonde hair, blue eye, green eyes. The Celtic, it's the Boudica, it's the in the Celtic and Druid culture, like that is very intense, and there's a lot of great healing arts within the Druid and Celtic cultures. And so it's we're all here to share that. And even if you are Black or white, just check, you probably have something else in there too that's magical for you, and can be that part of that DNA can be activated. And that's all we're really looking for to kind of round up the episode in the Sophia Code. Literally, in my opinion, if I had just like pitch this in one sentence, it's self-activation.
Yeah.
For your spiritual DNA. That is literally what the Sophia Code, take the book out, is literally activating a side of your DNA that's just been dormant.
Maybe that's missing the mark if you don't activate it. So
being dormant, it's and so I would highly suggest, like, you can't go wrong with this book. I've yet to meet a person who read this book and was like, meh. I've yet to meet that person.
I've met people who's like, oh, I picked it up and I don't understand it. Like, it's like, and I've gotten that a few times, but then it's just like one of those things that we talked about at the beginning. Well, it'll meet you with where you are. Yeah. When you're ready to understand it, like really, it's gonna appear. It's just gonna work for you. But if you're not quite, ready to understand it, then it's gonna look like. It always reminds me of, like when you watch some of the magical movies on Hollywood or anything like that, and they have the magical books, but they're like only certain people can see it. Like if someone who isn't ready to see it, it's like all blank pages. You don't get the information. But the person who's there's a truth to that. Yeah, because totally. Like with any of the sacred texts, is the exact same way. I mean, you'll open it; it might not be invisible, but it might as well be, because when you look at it, you won't understand the words, or the words won't make any sense to you. And that's then when you're ready, the words will totally pop and they'll make sense to you. And that's how That's how I always feel like that's when you know there's something to that text, or if it's really like a truly magical book. It's the same. The Bhagavad Gita is the exact same way. Like the first time I read it, I was like, what the? I didn't understand anything.
You're like, why do I care about this dude going to war? Like,
I know. And it wasn't until reading it several times through that it finally started to reveal itself to me, because it meets you with where you are. And I think there's a lot of books that do that.
Now I got to add another book to my shelf.
Well, it's the same with the Yoga Sutras. I'll tell you, the Bhagavad Gita, for those who are really, because I love the Bhagavad Gita, this is probably one of the best commentaries. I love Ram Dass. And you can see my book is old, and it's like, we got underlined things, but and it's the same with the Yoga Sutras. The more I practice yoga, my first time reading the Yoga Sutras 17 years ago versus today is completely changed my perception of what Patanjali is saying. But I am feeling inclined to do this because I already released an episode this morning, because we are giving a giveaway for some of the ASEA stuff, and I'm going to give away a Marnie Alton gift card as well. I'm going to, for this, I feel like I'm being told to do this. If you are somebody watching this right now and you do not have the Sophia Code, and you would like to, I'm going to give away a Sophia Code. So if you put down in the comment section below on Esoteric Atlanta your name and Sophia beside it, I'll give it a week. I'm giving it a week from the other video as well. I will draw names, and whoever I draw, I will send you a copy of the Sophia Code. So, and you'll just have to let me know if you're not in the United States. I'll make sure if English is not your first language, I will make sure that you get this book in your first language, because this book does come in multiple languages. So, I'm just feeling inclined to do that. So if you, if you don't have the Sophia Code, just put your name with Sophia beside it. In a week's time, I'll do a drawing. Or if you're too impatient, you want to get the book right away, I'll put a link to the book down in the description box below, so you can easily just order it for yourself now. So I just hope, I always want everybody to do their own research on this channel, and to really, that's part of taking your power back, is making sure that you understand things for yourself, because you are, I really hope people get that you are that special. You don't need someone to save you, because you have the ability to save yourself, and that is your superpower. My mother used to tell us all the time, if you allow someone to take care of you, then you allow them to control you. And so allowing somebody else to save you is giving your power away to somebody else. And that's the last thing we want anybody to do. We want you guys to understand just how magical and truly special each and every person watching this right now, regardless of where you are in the world, whatever your race is, gender, doesn't matter. You are a fractal of God, and that is that fractal of the Sophia Code. And so there is nobody on this world that is more special than anybody else. You are truly loved by the divine, because you're part of the divine. And that is the one thing people take from the Sophia Code, that you can do this. There is help if you need help understanding. Cindy's an incredible healer. You do healing sessions on Zoom too, correct, Cindy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I do the healing sessions, and then I do for someone who wants like a deeper, like a 90-day mentorship healing, all sorts of things into one in a 90-day program as well, where if you just basically what I feel is, someone who, like, as a healer, is all we're really doing is saving you time.
Yeah
That's all. I mean, do you want to
wonder
go ahead and start to do it now, or do you want to wait, or do you want to wait another lifetime? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you, but we're just we're just catalysts for time.
That's a Harmony. My friend Harmony in Canada used to say, if you practice with yoga, you're just speeding your karma up. That's all you're doing. You're speeding it up.
Speeding the process up for you, and helping you get, realize, and helping you get into the place where you can do the work, and providing a space for you, like a container that's specifically aligned for you to do your work.
Absolutely. And so I want everybody to be clear. There is a huge difference between a cult leader and a healer and a teacher. A healer, we talked about this yesterday at the Shala. A healer and a teacher is going to help you, give you the template, coach you, help you see your blind spots, but they're totally going to be hands off when it comes to you doing your own work and you integrating that into yourself. A cult leader, not so much. So I've had incredible teachers, and and it is true. Like, you can wander around and find all this information out for yourself, but if you have somebody that's walked down the road first and can help guide you and give you their experiences, even better. So I'll put all those links to for both Angie and Cindy down in the description box below, so you guys can, if you want to, if you want the fickle chickle, I'll say the fickles, the chickles, the pickles. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Or if you want to connect with Cindy. Also, again, I do teach on Sundays at Sacred Garden Yoga. We have opened up the Zoom. I know a lot of my students who are in other countries couldn't make it last week, but so those guys got to do some second series, which it was just us. But if you want to join us on Sundays too, my class is at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's the New York City time. So if you're coming from elsewhere in the world, you're more than welcome to join me on Sundays, or all of Cindy's classes are on Zoom as well. So you can check out the Sacred Garden website and pop into any of the classes. Just make sure that you are aligned with the proper time. Again, we are Eastern time. That's the same as New York City. So wherever you live in the world, we got some people in Texas that join us. They're always like 2 hours behind us. So they're up early on a Sunday to take those classes. So, so just make sure you check with your local time and make sure. So, all right, you ladies, anything else you want to say before we sign out?
I love being a student. So
Same.
Thank y'all very much for meeting with me
Of
today.
course. The door
having me.
Including me. So, thanks.
Of course. Yeah. All right, you guys. We'll talk to you all later. Bye, everybody.
My soul is filled with thanksgiving as I reclaim this personal power to increasingly access more and more of my true self by activating the Sophia Code of my soul. Thanks for watching, friends.